Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately titled IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, and as part of our efforts to promote play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, which are just conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA. With me on the porch today is Dawn Ryan. Dawn, welcome.
Thank you so much, Deb. It's so great to be here.
Here, Dawn has worked in early childhood for more than 30 years, working with different classrooms and age groups and administrative roles. And over those years, her programs sort of switched from that academic focus to programs that are really honed in on being a place for children's play and for their belonging. And so I have to tell you, Dawn, similar paths, right? You know, I'm the teacher and I'm going to have a theme. And then as a director, the whole school had the same theme. Oh my God. And I just cringe. But, you know, everybody starts in a certain place, but we evolve over time. And so the one thing that I love about your Porch Play Chat today is that journey from, you know, focused on getting children ready to an environment where play and that feeling of children that they're accepted and they belong is so important. And I think all of us kind of do that. I always think of Deb Lawrence, who said, "Oh, when I think back to my beginnings, you know," and I'm like, "Oh," and I think back to when I started. But that gives us hope, and everyone just knows it's an evolution for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's definitely been a journey. I started out working in a daycare center, and I took the job out of necessity, not knowing what I was getting into. And from there, I moved into Head Start, which is its own level of government funding and academic pushdown and all the things. And then I moved into school district, which again is just another level of academics and all the things. And then through the years, I've learned a lot of different philosophies, a lot of different curriculums. It's been a long, slow, steady journey along the way. And when my own children were grown and started having their own children, so now I'm having grandchildren. I've got 7 grandchildren.
Ooh.
And at one point, all of my kids have worked with me in my own program. And 5 out of 7 of my grandkids have been through my program. So it kind of led me on this path of, what do I want for them? It became really, really personal at that point. That was about 15 years ago. And I wanted to, preserve childhood for them and hold space for them. And anyway, so that was part of my journey. And that shaped my beliefs around being play-based and being a place for everyone, and learning how to include children that needed supports or children who were on IEPs, whatever the case, but that there was a place for everyone.
And that is beautiful, because I think sometimes we say, it's part of our service to accept all children, right? But the things that we learn from the children who might need additional support, I think are some of the most valuable experiences for a classroom of diverse learners in a facility. And we did inclusive classrooms before inclusive classrooms were popular, because I had a public school right across the street. It was a 4-lane street, but right across the street. And I went over to them and said, I would love for my teachers and children, because they had self-contained classrooms, this is way back, right? I would love for my teachers and some of my children to interact with children who need additional supports. And they
Yeah.
said, we would love our children to interact
Yeah.
with typically developing children. And so we did. They came once a week in their wagons to us, and we went once a week to them. It was amazing. It was
Well,
amazing.
my journey through the school district is where I really started to experience working with children with special needs. And at one point, we had been offered the opportunity to really focus in on social emotional skills and to be a part of a really big program. And at the end of the presentation, the administration said, "No, thank you. We would rather focus on our children reading when they go to kindergarten." And it was at that point that I knew that that was no longer the place for me, and that I left and I started my own program. And that's when I started this program for the children. And just recently, I've been learning and studying just online, but learning about Eric Carter's work out of Baylor University. And he's done so much research on belonging and what that means to belong in the community. And some of the dimensions of belonging that he talks about are being present, which is what we're talking about, what you're talking about, the children being present, invited. They invited you in, being welcomed. You welcomed them in. You knew them. You accepted them. They were involved, supported, heard, befriended, and needed. Those are the dimensions. And those are really the parts that meld so beautifully with a play-based program versus an academic program where those children are still there, but are we taking the time to really see and hear them? That's my question.
No, they're not. They may be included. They may be in an inclusionary classroom. So it says that they have children with differing abilities in a classroom, but those children are not included.
Yes.
They're over here or over here.
Yeah.
And I've only seen an inclusion classroom that was truly inclusive 2 or 3 times when I've been visiting, and it's so different when those children are included in the activities that are happening at their own pace in the way that they learn best, and the acceptance of the rest of the children in, you know, if they need something, here, let me get that for you, it's out of your reach, or and the child's independence once they feel like they belong in that classroom. Oh, it's just so beautiful. It's just
I agree. Just because they're included doesn't mean that my job is done. There's way more to it. There's a lot more depth to it. And exactly what you're talking about. We know that play is the most important part of learning, and to be making space for those children and to helping them engage in activities that promotes cognitive, social, and emotional development, and giving them the skills to be with other children. It starts in our classrooms. And I would love to think that all classrooms were like that, but I'm not sure that that's true.
And so when you talk about your program, and I'd love you to describe it for everyone. So
sure.
And then talk about how you're doing that in the program so that everyone feels as if they belong.
Sure. Yes. I have a mixed age group preschool program. So our license is 2.5 to 6. So we have already a wide variety of learners and different skill sets. And because we're play-based, we really enjoy taking risks. So, it could mean climbing a tree, or it could mean jumping off something tall. Our kids love to climb up into the windowsill to build their magnetile towers up to the ceiling. And sometimes the teachers are up in the windowsill with them. But it's about, meeting them where they are, giving them a yes space where the things in that space are theirs. And, if I put out if I put out flowers and scissors and a vase, and I should not be surprised if I'm not getting a lovely flower arrangement. Instead, they are chopping that up into tiny little pieces, in which case we would just make potpourri. It's just rolling with it. What do they need and how can I support them in that environment? And I think some of these, again, go back to belonging. It's being accepted for who they are. They are being known and we are supporting them.
And I think that is so beautiful because you can offer, right? In a classroom that is dedicated to play, it doesn't mean the teacher's not offering something, right?
Sure.
It's spring outside, there's flowers blooming. I'm just gonna go grab some. See what happens. And that to me, I think was the joy of teaching. It was,
Absolutely.
we were reading a book and people were really interested in the different textures that flowers might have or the different colors that they have. And so as a teacher, you pick up on that interest and you say, how can I do that? And then you go to a florist who throws those flowers away and you ask if you can pick them up and bring them
Yes.
to your
Yes.
classroom. And it doesn't cost you a dime. They're going to throw them away anyway. And they're excited to be able to engage children in nature and flowers, right? So it is this beautiful blend of observing and noticing. And then if there were days I would think, oh, they seem to be really interested in this. And I would do something and no one would ever come. And I'd go, okay, I guess I didn't do that well. So, or I just misread what their interest was. And we just put it away and brought it out 3 months later and they would typically do something with it. And so it's not, it's and we were talking about this with Rixa in the last one. It's recognizing the development that's taking place and being able to communicate that. When parents say all they do is play.
Right. I love that. And when you were talking, I was thinking about, we offer open snack to our children in the morning. So our program starts 7:30 in the morning. And the schedule kind of says that we'll have a circle at 9:30, but sometimes the children are hungry before that and they want snack before circle instead of after circle. So a child might come to me and they might say, is it snack time? And I'll say, are you feeling hungry? Helping them clue into what they're really feeling. And they'll say, yes, I'm feeling hungry. I'll say, snack is available. Help yourself. And they'll wash their hands and get their lunchbox and they'll open their containers and they'll use the scissors to open their packages, or they'll ask another child to help them open their packages, which is the peer partnering that I love. And then they'll eat their snack. Their parents provide the snack. So if they're eating the cookie at 8 o'clock in the morning, we don't tell them that they can't have it. It wouldn't be our first choice, but we don't tell them they can't have it. We would just offer a suggestion and help them remember, you can choose to have that now, but it won't be available at lunchtime, and just help them realize through the process and the problem solving of that. But again, it's about belonging. It's about being heard and seen and accepted for exactly where they are right now. It's not about control and compliance and putting our adult lens on the children. It's how can we meet them where they are right now? And in the real big picture, does it really matter if they eat their cookie at 8 o'clock in the morning? Probably not. They're going to be okay.
Be fine.
They'll be fine.
I think the thing that I love about that is that we don't necessarily, and please don't be, controlled by an inanimate object, which is the clock. You have live human beings in front of you, and every one of them, just like adults, is going to be hungrier earlier or later, or need more or less. And that independence of having it available when their body tells them they need something. Think of the self-regulation. I mean, we want kids to develop self-regulation, but they can't do that when we're telling them what to do, what to do next, and when to do it. So it's not, that doesn't help with self-regulation. So it's kind of like lining them all up and taking them down to the bathroom where they have to sit against the wall and wait. I know, oh my God. I'm like, listen, people, they need to learn to listen to their body. And then they need to be able to tell you that they need to go to the bathroom. And then you need to say, okay, let's go. And because so Sarah and I are going to the bathroom. Does anybody else need to come? And then children are thinking and they're listening to their body. And then I would have 4 or 5 more that would join me. But there's no, we say we want them to develop self-regulation, then we don't give them any opportunities to do that.
Yeah, that I love that you said that. My program is in a building that with 3 other programs, and everyone has a different philosophy, everyone has a different style. But our children are definitely the rebellious group in the building. We do not line up. We do not walk down the hallway. We skip, we hop, we jump, we chat. We are loud and obnoxious, but in a respectful way. And we're always talking about, the babies might be sleeping. Remember that we're going to walk through the hallway quietly, but not in a way that squashes their individuality, just in a way that we're bringing awareness of what is happening around us. Instead of the finger on the wall and the bubble in your mouth. And, that is not real life. If you're not going to talk to your own friend like that, we're not going to talk to children like that. Deb, I would never tell you to put a bubble in your mouth while we walk down the hall.
And thank you. I appreciate that because, sometimes I have spatial awareness issues. So sometimes I'm like, what would that even look like? How would that feel? So I can delve into what does that feel like instead of listening to anything else because I'm too busy focusing on trying to get a bubble in my mouth that is not comfortable. And so it's those kinds of I don't want to, well, I'm going to say controlling because it is. I want you to control your behavior. And this is how I want you to do it. Instead of saying to children, remember the babies are sleeping.
Right.
And so what do we need to think about when we walk down the hall? And letting children give you the answer instead of saying what the answer is. It's just, it is, I've been in a 2nd grade classroom when I was field student teacher in a classroom. And they would make children line up by their gender, which drove me crazy. And then they would, if the boys did not line up appropriately, then the girls had to wait until the boys came back in, sat at their desks, got right up like they were getting ready to do, got up, pushed their chair in. I'm like, oh my God.
It's so unnecessary.
It's like being in like the military where, the drill sergeants. And I get the military piece and I get the police academy piece, but you're still not creating problem solvers.
Right.
When you force them to do it over and over and over again. It's just frustration and waiting and lost time that is so frustrating to people.
Yes, I agree. And again, I've been thinking about control and compliance a lot lately, and how can we meet children where they are? Their behavior is communicating something to us. And so what can we do to support them? How they want to be known for something. These are all belonging components. And I can accept you exactly where you are, and I can support you exactly where you are if I take away the controlling piece or the compliance piece and try to figure out what is the real message that's happening in your behavior. I think about this with the peer partners that we were talking about. Like, who knows what life is like as a 3-year-old better than a 4-year-old? And who knows what life is like as a 4-year-old better than a 5-year-old? been there, done that. And we can set these kids up together to support each other because they've all had the opportunity to work through these skills, social skills, taking turns, sharing or working out conflict, whatever the case may be. They have the tools that they can pass on. And if we allow the children to be the leaders and to lead where they are and to teach each other these things, I think we're going to see more intrinsic results. They're really going to embody what it feels like instead of us just telling them what they should be doing.
Well, and the other big thing that always lifted up to me is when in school, you walk in the door in your kindergarten classroom and the rules are posted on the wall. You had no input, and so they're meaningless to you because you didn't evolve with the rule thinking, right? So that's why I love the responsive classroom for primary grades and on. But one of the things that I had 3 rules in my preschool classroom. We keep ourselves safe, we keep our friends safe, and we keep our things safe. That was it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I would hear, and every morning we would say, what's a rule that you really want to try today? Right? So they would say, I'm going to try to keep my things safe. And I said, okay, so friends, so-and-so wants to keep his things safe. So let's help throughout the day. Right. And every child, every day, one child would say, what's the rule you really want to try to follow today? And then all of his peers would help him.
Yeah, I love that.
Remember, you were going to keep your things safe. Oh, and I didn't have to say a word. It was their choice of what they wanted to do. But sometimes we just get into. I remember looking at one across the room, and you know how you can look at them and go, what just happened? And they go, oh yeah, okay. And then you don't have to say a word to them, but you're just like puzzled as to why they made that decision of trying to climb up on top of the cubbies and jumping off of them. I was just wondering what's going on. But I also loved when you said every behavior is a form of communication. I say that every day in my college classroom when people say, so-and-so, I have this question about this child in my classroom. And I'll go, so what is that child trying to tell you? Every behavior is a form of communication. And that belonging piece can sometimes be why that behavior is like that. So, do they feel accepted and appreciated and respected, and are they heard?
Yes.
Ooh,
yes.
It's a big thing.
Yes. Deb, have you heard of the Butterfly Pig website?
The which one?
It's called Butterfly Pig.
No, Butterfly Pig. I'm writing it down. Hold on.
Write it down. It's so beautiful. While we're talking about being accepted, it's a website that offers realistic toy medical equipment. So what an amazing way to bring in these items to the classroom and to showcase what children might need for adaptive or supportive devices, and to bring awareness for children who aren't aware of these things. And it goes along with other quality materials where the messaging is, whoever you are, come as you are accepted and you belong here.
Yeah.
So I just thought that we should highlight that when we're talking about, inviting all people.
Yes, because in the inclusive classroom that we did with the elementary school, because we had children on feeding tubes, and because sometimes children had braces on their leg, and we had children in wheelchairs, and we had children on crutches. So the staff in the elementary school would bring those materials in and explain them to the children, let them play with them, let them try them on, let them manipulate them, so that when the children came, they were like, oh, okay, that's just a child who needs braces, or that's a child that needs to feed a different way, or that's a child. And it was so accepting. They were so accepted and appreciated, and it wasn't scary to
Yes.
the children of seeing someone that might, even we had one child that um, needed help with breathing. And so they brought in all the stuff and they said, this is why the child needs this. And, then the kids would say, well, how did that happen? And they would say, sometimes we don't know how it happens, but we're here to make sure that he's safe and that he's able to interact with other people. And so it was this wonderful partnership with that school that really was so enriching for our kids and for their kids, right? So it was, and when we go out on the playground, it was so beautiful, and our kids would want to help. And I'd say, I wonder if they could do that themselves. And so we should let them try. And
Also important.
yeah,
Yes.
so important. Instead of wanting to do everything for them, maybe they need to figure out how to do that for themselves. Maybe you could ask them some questions about how to do that. And so it was just this beautiful way of children learning to care for each other without doing stuff for each other, unless they needed it. If they say, I need your help in getting my crutches, okay.
Right.
And
Well,
so if we, yes, go ahead,
I was
Dawn.
going to say, and if it's not, this isn't just about children with disabilities, though. This is also about cultures as well. Families, we should get families involved in this and creating a place where families have a voice and can tell us what they need and how we can support them, where they feel comfortable bringing in their own traditions and cultures, whether that's in cooking projects or sharing a family poster of something that represents their story. Or, in our program, we offer books and bagels once a month, where we invite the parents in to come and read to the children while they're also enjoying a cup of coffee and a bagel. But I'm very intentional in how I choose the books for those events, using the opportunity to introduce different cultures or different abilities or different languages. And again, it's that whole belonging piece where families are being seen and involved and known. And it's more encompassing than just including people with disabilities.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I was always frustrated about when I was a teacher is, the flannel story pieces only came as the white families and the Black families and the Hispanic families and the Asian families, and even the American Indian families, right? And so I went to my director and said, because, and fortunately, she was very open to ideas. I said, I don't like it. I don't like the way these are, so I'm gonna take them all apart. And I'm going to put all the mommies in one and all the daddies in another and all the brothers in one and all the sisters in another and all the babies in another and all the grandmas in another. And I'm going to let them build their own family.
How about
Because,
that?
yeah, not that this is the stereotype and this is what they should all look like. Because we were in a military community, Colorado Springs, right?
Oh,
So that,
right. Yes.
yeah. So we had 4 or 5 military bases, very diverse families, very diverse culturally, ethnically, and language wise. And so it's kind of like when you're in a military town as well, and you're in a hunting community, right? Because Colorado Springs people like to hunt there. And so you had to be really careful understanding the culture that children were going to make guns because maybe their mommy or daddy went out the door with one every morning. And you couldn't say guns are bad, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't.
Yeah.
But you could say, this is where you can point your banana that you've made into a gun or your
Your
Lego.
toast.
Yeah. This is where you can point it. And we have to make sure we don't point it at people or animals, right? And so our animals in the classroom. And okay, that was fine with them.
Yeah,
They'll do it.
right.
So yeah, so it's the culture of the community, which is going to be varied, but I mean, in a strong military town with all those bases around you, you you can't say guns are bad.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to think about classroom spaces as well. Just making sure again that it's a place of belonging and welcome, where your classroom could be arranged to accommodate wheelchairs, or it can have the calming colors and decluttered classrooms where children with sensory concerns can come in and feel a sense of calm when they're in there, creating quiet places for self-regulation. And I don't know, these are just some examples, but other ways that we can set the stage so that no matter who walks into your door, they have that sense that they are being represented and that they have
Yeah. And that they see pictures of themselves and their families. And so we didn't have, I'm old, so we didn't have, I didn't even have a copier in our building. We certainly didn't have internet. And our phones were on the wall with long,
yes.
right? Remember? So that long time, right? Long time ago. We did have cameras, and it was Polaroid the first time they came around. So that film was really expensive. But I never asked families to share their pictures because it wasn't like they could recall them digitally again.
Right.
So at every parent event, we took pictures with the Polaroid or with a regular camera that we could then print so that, and if grandma came to visit, we certainly took a picture of grandma with everybody. And if the dog came to visit, we certainly took a picture with the dog with everybody. So that became also that classroom culture where we were able to show everybody pictures of everybody. And the one way I got, because back, it's still unfortunately today, the boys will look at the girls and say girls can't play in blocks. And girls can play anywhere, boys can play anywhere. So then when I was a teacher, I would see boys playing in dramatic play, and I would go take their picture and then put their pictures up in dramatic play, and girls playing in science and take their pictures up and put them in science, and boys playing rocking a baby and take pictures and put them, because then they would go, oh no, everybody can play everywhere. We don't
I
have
love
to.
that when I see the boys in the tutus, or they have the baby all stuffed up their shirt, or they're nursing their babies. It's so beautiful. They don't know until we tell them that they can't do that. So why are we telling them these things?
They're going to learn as they go, and they're just imitating what they're seeing.
Exactly.
It's just so beautiful. Children, you get so much joy if you stop controlling them.
Yes.
And just observe them and respect them and enjoy them, instead of being frustrated with them or feeling like you have to get them ready for the next life, when that's really not your job. Your job is to support them where they are, not to try to rush it, right? So that's the big thing. Oh my goodness, Dawn, this has been wonderful. It's truly that sense of belonging, and the way those mixed age groups are showing us Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, and the strength of mixed ability groups. Just it is a wonderful way to respect where every child is. and give them the opportunity to learn from other people. You know, when my students are in a pre-K through fourth grade teacher cert program, right? So we always talk about, you know, how many of you were in the Bluebird group for reading, and how many of you were in the Yellowbird group for reading, and who knew who was in the high reading group and who was in the low reading group, and they're all like, and how did that help your confidence level? Not much. You know,
No.
it's so, you know, the things that we do to make children feel self-conscious or not successful, when if we just mix those abilities together, they learn from each other.
So beautiful.
I know. So it's just, you know, some of the things that we do is because those things were done to us.
Sure.
And we think that's the best way to do it. So what Dawn and I are telling you is we all started in that we have to get them ready. But what we figured out is it doesn't work. And you
You
don't,
are correct.
yeah, and you don't build good relationships, which is the heart of every classroom. And so you need to be rethinking some of the things that you're doing and ask yourself, does every child in this classroom feel like they belong? That's a
Yeah,
beautiful
I love that.
question to ask yourself. And thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. This has been great fun.
It is fun. These are so fun. And so stay right there while I close this out. So to learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. Up in the top right-hand corner, you can subscribe to Spotify, follow us on Instagram, be a friend on Facebook. I think that's what you are. And subscribe also to YouTube. And then magically, every Monday morning, a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. So, Dawn, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. To all of you out there who are listening, keep on playing.